This is A Course in Miracles. It is a required course. Only the time you take it is voluntary. Free will does not mean that you can establish the curriculum. It means only that you can elect what you want to take at a given time. The course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. It does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. The opposite of love is fear, but what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. This course can therefore be summed up very simply in this way. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God.
You are identified with as your God self. So only in that alliance is any healing really taking place.
So we get back, let's jump back to this whole idea where I said you can't forgive. Okay, I don't have the agency to forgive in this world. But what you just said there, forgiveness yet is our, is our function.
Yes.
Forgiveness is my only function. That's the axiom of the Course. So what does it mean then? I'm going to say it's an orientation towards seeing the past as possibly healing and not a storehouse of the mind of shadows and hurts and wounds and failures. It's the past as a possible solution in there somewhere in the mysterious way that only with the Holy Spirit as guide can I actually maneuver that journey into the past. If I open up the past with the idea that I'm going to solve or fix or whatever, well, that's what the ego wants you to do anyway, because it's an endless, you're on the couch forever, in the Freudian stagnation of just trying to figure out what's wrong.
In all honesty, I know people who you could almost call it an addiction to being able to keep rehashing their past with a psychologist, but it doesn't get healed. It just gets rehashed and rehashed and rehashed because it doesn't go that next step of having where you let it go through the spiritual journey of saying, I lay it down at the feet of Jesus. I call my alliance in with the Holy Spirit, and I say, I want to see it another way.
Well, in this paragraph 5, it actually drags the Holy Spirit in.
Okay, let's do it. We need the Holy Spirit. How can the Holy Spirit bring his interpretation of the body as a means of communication into relationships whose only purpose is separation from reality? What forgiveness is enables him to do so. If all but loving thoughts have been forgotten, what remains is eternal, and the transformed past is made like the present. No longer does the past conflict with now. This continuity extends the present by increasing its reality and its value in your perception of it. In these loving thoughts is the spark of beauty hidden in the ugliness of the unholy relationship where hatred is remembered. Yet, there too come alive as the relationship is given to him who gives it life and beauty. That is why atonement centers on the past, which is the source of separation and where it must be undone. For separation must be corrected where it was made. So there's that phrase. That is why the atonement centers on the past, which is the source of separation and where it must be undone.
Now, the way that I've understood this is I have past events, and they stand as failures, wounds, attacks, mistakes, whatever, that have accumulated on me as the stuff I didn't do, the stuff I should have done, the stuff I failed at. That kind of thing. The things that make me what I am in a lot of ways.
Right.
Of course, there's a lot of victories, but, we could go into the victories in the same way. It's just that the victories don't hurt, The past, but the past victories or defeats, it doesn't matter. It's all the same illusion. It's all the same illusion. But the past is the one that gets our attention. And just in that noticing that the pain is what gets our attention, you can see that in that is a clear identifiable spark of beauty, which it's talking about, in whatever that was. So let's say I have the guy that knocked me off his handlebars and I knocked my teeth out. Okay? In that, yes, it stands as a mistake, a real faux pas in the physical world where I was marred, and it led to a snowball of how I am in the world socially and with women and with other guys and all this kind of stuff because of this thing, whatever. But you realize, if you understand from the Holy Spirit's point of view, this is the atonement, from the atonement, all of these flaws and all of these things have in them an element of where there's a conspiracy of all of these flaws, a conspiracy of all these wounds and apparent attacks to heal me.
Right.
To bring me to God, to bring me to wholeness, to bring me to awareness. There's a spark in those.
Yes.
And what happens is, when I go into this and I invite in the Holy Spirit says, well, as a matter of fact, that thing that messed you up for like 20 years, it was actually a really good thing, and I'm going to show you how. And so that starts to happen, and it leads to a glorious understanding that I'm led and guided even in the worst situations, even in the worst times. It has to be revealed to me, and it's up to me to do that. So I can't say what happens in depression, because depression can be it's a crushing sense of not being able to find a joyful light in it. Now we can say, well, it's biochemical, or it's this or this. I don't know. All I know is that in this, I have to assume I proceed with a form of faith, or faith flat out, that if I can just, through parched lips and wax melting within my chest, to quote Isaiah, if I can reach out to the Holy Spirit for a new way, I have to believe that it's incoming.
Yes.
I have to believe, right?
Yes.
Right?
Yes. I agree. And the Holy Spirit, whenever it's from the heart, the Holy Spirit always answers. Any one of those cries for help, the Holy Spirit answers. But will you ask for help? That's where we always wonder.
Okay,
about
so I got the bicycle, and he's going, Phil, don't fall, and I'm on the bicycle handlebars, and I go off, and we're going down a hill, and I land face first on the street, knock out my teeth.
Right.
Could have died.
Yeah.
It's not the only time I could have died. There have been half dozen times when I should have been dead. So I could have died. Now, where's Ed? Okay, Ed, it's not like Ed's saying, I'm going to help Phil and his thing. But beyond all this, behind all this, in the mind of God, Ed is participating in a drama using his shadow figures, his shadow characters, to do a thing with me. God can't be beaten. God can't be out-strategized by our shadow worlds.
I agree.
And so what happens is, and it has happened to me, I can go back and see that Ed is a really blessed brother. He's a comrade in this. And he did the heavy lifting of moving me to a certain place. He never would have done it if he knew what he was doing. Yeah. And I wouldn't have gone along for the ride, literally, if I had known what was up. I wouldn't have done it. But in order to move the illusion along into the light, these things happen. And they happen continuously. And the best we can do for everybody is, for me, to bless Ed Beckett as quick as I possibly can.
Yeah, that is your holy brother. I mean, all the ones that you think hurt you and everything else,
all of them have to be blessed again and again and again.
Right. And that was the first sentence, I think, over how can the Holy Spirit bring his interpretation of the body as a means of communication into relationships, whose only purpose is separation from reality? What forgiveness is enables him to do so. So right there is the answer. Forgiveness is what enables the Holy Spirit to use the body as a means of communication so that it can heal the separation. I just wanted to emphasize that again.
Well, and the forgiveness is, as I've looked at the miracle of forgiveness, the Holy Instant, is to rend the veil of this illusion. The
Yeah.
illusion is torn, so that, let's say Ed is a physical entity, my teeth is physical properties, the bicycle, the event as a physicality is sort of empty of real meaning. And that's what happens in the miracle in the holy instant. It's revealed as an empty reality, but an adjustment of people and circumstances and situations, sort of call it energetically or spiritually in some other way, to bring us to a point. And you can see the sublime aspect of the spiritual movement, apart from the nightmarish movement of the physical bodies.
Right.
There's a sublime movement, and it goes with all movements, whether it's a World War II or, the proverbial stub toe.
Yeah, I agree. Well, for every crashed relationship I had, there was a revelation of something about myself and the spiritual aspects of life, actually.
And each one is there to be the last one. Each one is there to wake me up, and it's my option to keep on playing.
Right. Right.
It's not that it takes 100 mistakes to get it figured out. That's not necessarily part of the math. But I do have freedom here.
Right.
We have radical freedom.
Right.
Paragraph.
And just a reminder that only the loving thoughts are remain, and they remain as eternal. Even if we can't remember all the loving thoughts, or we might not know what they are, they're there.
It said it's a selective memory, and it's not by you.
Right.
The selection isn't by you. So the selection is the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
Paragraph 6. The ego seeks to resolve its problems, not at their source, but where they were made. Oh. The ego seeks to resolve its problems, not at their source, but where they were not made. And thus it seeks to guarantee there will be no solutions. The Holy Spirit wants only to make his resolutions complete and perfect, and so he seeks and finds the source of problems where it is, and there undoes it. And with each step in his undoing is the separation more and more undone and union brought closer. He is not at all confused by any reasons for separation. All he perceives in separation is that it must be undone. Let him uncover the hidden spark of beauty in your relationships and show it to you. Its loveliness will so attract you that you will be unwilling ever to lose the sight of it again, and you will let this spark transform the relationship so you can see it more and more. For you will want it more and more, and become increasingly unwilling to let it be hidden from you. And you will learn to seek for and establish the conditions in which this beauty can be seen.
Yeah.
Now, this is true of all relationships.
Yes. Yes.
It's true of all the relationship with a house, our relationship, relationships with people in the community,
Yes.
relationships with any entities in my past.
Any entities in your past, including those that have gone, because no one's ever really gone. So all of it has the ability to be healed. What was it? The ego seeks to resolve its problems not at their source, but where they were not made, and thus it seeks to guarantee that there will be no solution. So if you want to use your ego to come up with solutions to your relationship problems, it's going to just be constantly in pain.
It's going to try to fix it at the point where it thought the problem was.
Right.
And that's what the Course is saying. Where the ego thinks it happened, it didn't happen.
Right. And the Holy Spirit finds the real source, so long as you're handing it over, and it will, and with each step in his undoing is the separation more and more undone and union brought closer. So this is how each one of us, as we participate in this learning how to forgive, learning how to lay down, which again, all things are in partnership. I of myself, the little I, cannot do these things. It is because I am willing to lay it down. It is because I'm willing to see another way that the Holy Spirit has the opportunity to move me through it and therefore have it healed. Only in those ways is it done. If I try to do it myself, and trust me, I have tried to do those things myself in a misunderstanding of the Course, and it only ends up in one big more ball of problem. So All he perceives in separation is that it must be undone.
So this is the idea of nitpicking or pulling apart or navel gazing and figuring out what went wrong. I figure out what went wrong. It's saying that the Holy Spirit is not interested in what went wrong. The what of things is irrelevant.
That's right.
It's that it went wrong. It's that there's a separation, and that separation must be undone. So it's a totally different strategy. It's not going back to my handlebar story and seeing where Ed really had where his mind was at, and he was distracted and I was distracted and this was going on and that was going on. Those things are kind of not that germane to the real action. That's not really what's going on. The idea is to turn it over to the Holy Spirit, see that moment, and allow the light to turn on in me. Because I can't turn that light on, right?
No.
I can only ask.
Right. No, the Holy Spirit is the one who brings the light.
Right. So let that light be turned on in me and go, and it's an oh, okay, that's what happened. Oh, okay. That's what happened. And the more of those we have, the more clear. And on all the tortured situations, when I say tortured, maybe that's an extravagant use of the word, but all those situations where I think I failed or think I messed up, I was supremely, cosmically embarrassed by my activities, whatever. That light goes on, and that situation becomes elegant. It becomes just so.
Yes.
It really becomes just so.
And you'll know because there'll be a sense of peace. There'll be a sense of almost comical relief. There's certain things that you begin to
One thing that
feel.
happens is if there's a person there that you thought was was a perpetrator of some sort, you feel love.
Yeah.
I have felt love for that person, and it's spontaneous and not based on anything beyond. It's like that video. I put that video in there about the Matthew West song called "Forgiveness."
Right.
And if you haven't seen that, you can check out it's an 8-minute plus version of Matthew West's song "Forgiveness" from like 10 years ago or so. I put it in there, even though it's a Christian rocker song. He really seemed to get the elements.
Yes, I
and
agree.
In it, if you're paying attention, it becomes impossible to really find where the source of forgiveness really begins. Does it begin in the courtroom with the guy that killed the daughter breaking down and shattered in remorse and grief? Is that the beginning? And then who came into him to shatter him? And then the family sees him, and seeing his grief, it shatters them. And they say, well, he's, in a sense, free and reformed. Where am I? I'm holding a grudge. So they feel called for this thing called forgiveness. But you can't find the source of the forgiveness in the picture.
Yeah, in the story.
And Jesus said, I inspire these things.
Yeah.
So this is inspired in the Holy Spirit. It's not really, but we have to be open to it. See, that's the thing. That's what we do. We make ourselves open to it.
Yes.
But I don't have the agency to push it along other than to be as open as I can, right?
Right. That's the way I see it. And because then it says, and you will let this spark transform the relationship so that you can see it more and more. And that's the whole glory of it, that as you begin to do this work and everything else, the loveliness of where it was once hurt and everything else will be seen more and more. And you will learn to seek for and establish the conditions in which this beauty can be seen. So it causes this, I do want more of that. And so you begin to seek it.
Well, you start to have where, well, if I feel this moment of irrational love and quote unquote forgiveness for Ed and the bicycle incident, what else happened in my life?
Right.
And you start digging through your dirty laundry and saying, well, there's some dirty laundry. Let's see what's there. And each one of these is a contribution to the atonement at large.
Right.
And that's our participation in it.
That is. And
the world, I know it sounds like, okay, well, that's great. You feel great in the long run.
No, the world wakes
The world
up with
heals.
you. Mm-hmm.
You will see it outpictured in the world. You will, and magically,
Yes.
or miraculously.
Miraculously, you will see more and more of it around you, because that's how the sidewalks of history are rolled up, and each one of us participate in the healing of it. So that's what the beauty is. Okay. All this you will do gladly, if you but let him hold the spark before you. Oh, did I just read this?
No.
Okay. Paragraph 7. All this you will do gladly, if you but let him hold the spark before you to light your way and make it clear to you. God's Son is one, whom God has joined as one, the ego cannot put asunder. The spark of holiness must be safe, however hidden it may be, in every relationship. For the creator of the one relationship has left no part of it without himself. This is the only part of the relationship the Holy Spirit sees, because he knows that only this is true. You have made the relationship unreal, and therefore unholy, by seeing where it is not and as it is not. Give the past to him, who can change your mind about it for you. But first, be sure you fully realize what you have made the past to represent and why.
But first, be sure you fully realize what you have made the past to represent and why. Don't go marching into this without this line.
Right, which means that you want the separation. You want this. You want your sovereignty. You don't want union. There has to be a recognition that you're afraid of the light. You're afraid to relinquish that which you've now treasured, like Gollum down in his little hole with his gold. It's like...
So if I'm sitting here with my, let's say, unhealed self, and I'm feeling miserable, and I've got my depression, and I feel lousy, and I go, you know what? I'm doing this Course in Miracles. Give the past to him. Holy Spirit, take this past and heal it. Change my mind about it. It says, wait, there's something you got to do prior to that. There's a little work to do, but there's a little work prior to that request.
Yeah, well,
right?
Yeah.
But first, be sure you fully realize what you have made the past to represent and why. What does that past represent? Why do I want it reinterpreted? I don't want the Holy Spirit to reinterpret the past to show how I was screwed by the people in my past. No. To somehow make me feel better.
It undoes the separation.
No, it undoes all those problems. So I've got to understand, because I will resist what the Holy Spirit tells me if I don't understand first that I have created a golem of a past. I've created all these shadowy figures intentionally to keep me in a special relationship, unholy relationships of self-accusation, failure, or misunderstanding, or all those jerks out there, whatever it happens to be.
Well, we have to understand that. I mean, we don't only just have all of our littleness ideas. We have our grandiose ideas about ourselves too, and they often are fed like one layer like of littleness creates that other place of grandiosity where I think I'm right about a bunch of things, and I know what I'm talking about. All of those are what make up my identity of self, and so when you give up the past, you also give up your grandiose ideas of yourself.
I know a bunch of people right now.
Right?
I know. Yes. Okay. What did you say again?
I said, when you give up all of the stuff that bothered you in the past, you also give up your grandiose ideas of yourself.
Right.
Because they're closely linked.
And beyond all that, what I was going to say on the heels of that is, we both know quite a few people at the moment that would say, yes, the past has been cruel to me. Yes, it's painful. Yes, there are these different things in the past that are difficult. So are they ready to call on the Holy Spirit? Maybe not, because they're still looking for, now I'm not saying they shouldn't, but I'm saying the Holy Spirit is going to take them to another place. It's not going to help you with your past. It's going to help you understand what you've done with your past. It's not going to show you this. You're not going to see the glimmers of light in your past.
Right.
Because I first have to get to the point to where, wow, how much of my past did I manufacture for myself to reify certain self-image or a certain relationship with the world. I created that.
It's to keep love out.
Yes, to keep love out until I recognize my agency as an ego player in this illusion, until I recognize I've got agency there and I'm not like a victim of all these folks out there, that this guy was dealing drugs on me and this person over there punched me out and this person jumped me in an alley and this person wrecked my car. It's not just, wow, help me, Holy Spirit, make sense of all the terrible things that happened to me.
Right, no, it's not.
It's a matter of what you've been doing, Phil. What you've been doing here. What are you about? What part of yourself here? What are you now? So maybe this help me out. Does this get into? We're not supposed to get into so much psychologizing. What is the spirit of this thing?
Well, the spirit of it is that you need to understand, or I need to understand, and we all need to understand, is that we allow our egos to take precedence in the body form that we are and everything else because it is how we identify with ourselves. And all of this makes those edges fuzzy, and so it feels like you're giving up something to allow the Holy Spirit to heal your past and also heal your other ideas about yourself and everything else. Even like I said, even the great ideas about yourself. So, but all it takes is a little willingness, because you have to decide whether or not you want to feel lousy all the time. And if you want to go to a place where you actually can rest, it's a sense of rest, the peace that comes on, the joy that comes after the peace, or the love that comes after it, and the joy that comes with it's sort of like peace, then you feel a loving sense of everything, and then the joy wells up. It's like, oh my gosh, why didn't I let this go before? Just to be unburdened. We don't realize that we carry these as burdens with ourselves.
I just very recently I had a conversation with somebody, and because I was inspired by this section in particular, I was kind of trying to review the Course in Miracles. This person isn't in the Course in Miracles, and I tried to review some of these concepts. And I was disturbed to see that covering this kind of a section here about turning it over to the Holy Spirit, that this person, in a way, kind of hid, like the events of the past are unexamined. They're not brought into the light. They're kept in a sort of a shadowy state of a half-life. They're kind of cherished and kind of, they're dread. They have a kind of a melancholy appeal because they were moments of real injustice, and in those moments of real injustice, this person is truly, quote unquote, innocent,
Right.
And those injustices make this person innocent. And so in that sense, you don't want to convince an innocent person that, I'm sorry, you weren't innocent. That's sometimes hard to let go of. So I was a little alarmed, actually, to see how the Course could go wrong if we don't understand some of what it's saying right here in the end of this paragraph, to where if a person launches in, they could literally go out and start doing a bunch of truth-telling about their life and get the people around them alienated and in a full-out attack mode to scare them.
Which will only reinforce the littleness that was there.
It will reinforce all the problems.
It will.
And it will scare anything that wanted to come into the light. It was going to scare it right back under the rock.
Right.
You will scare it under the rock. That's why Jesus here is saying, but first you must fully realize that you have made you made the past to represent, and
what
why.
You made the past to
what
represent.
You made it to represent, why, so that you don't, in a way, frighten yourself, frighten others, do a backfire, let it turn into self-sabotage of your what might be actually a noble idea of coming clean.
Well, whenever you think you're going to do it yourself, say, no, I'm not going to do it myself. It means that
you
need to know that you're doing it with the help of a divine being. Otherwise, it's bound to.
Well, okay, in the fourth step of the 12-step program, step 4 is the searching and fearless moral inventory.
Yes.
The searching and fearless, in the AA circles, I think that is considered the critical, the cusp of that practice. the searching and fearless moral inventory. Who have I hurt? How did I hurt?
And I think in the very beginning is that there is something greater than myself.
Oh yeah, a trust. That's step
trust,
number one.
Yes, trust in something greater.
You can't approach the fearless moral inventory without a belief that there's something guiding this.
Yes, that's right.
Exactly. Paragraph 8. The past becomes the justification for entering into a continuing unholy alliance with the ego against the present. For the present is forgiveness. Therefore, the relationships the unholy alliance dictates are not perceived nor felt as now. Yet the frame of reference to which the present is referred for meaning is an illusion of the past, in which those elements that fit the purpose of the unholy alliance are retained and all the rest let go. And what is thus let go is all the truth the past could ever offer to the present as witnesses for its reality. What is kept but witnesses to the reality of dreams. This
so that's
whole
the
paragraph.
Ego. That's the ego cycle.
Well, and the whole paragraph, that whole paragraph is Jesus answering, but first be sure you fully realize what you have made the past to represent and why. And paragraph 8 is
the past becomes the justification
if
for
you
the
don't
entering
do that.
into,
If you don't do that, if you just jump into this, then the past becomes the justification for entering into a continuing unholy alliance with the ego.
Yeah, and against the present. So only in the present is forgiveness and all the healing take place. It's only now. For the present is forgiveness.
And in that situation, if I make that premature trying to come to Jesus moment without this last line, without doing this, and I do this thinking that I'm going to somehow heal the illusion of what I've got my past figured as, I throw out and avoid and basically strain off any of the elements of brightness that would be there to illuminate this situation.
Right.
And that's why the stagnation. That's why you and I both know of folks that can go for years and years, decades of the same issue. Dear Diary, 1990,
yes.
Dear Diary, 2000, Dear Diary, 2020, and it all sounds the same.
Right. Hopefully my diaries don't look like that. I haven't stopped them anyway, but I don't know.
Can't check anymore.
They're all in my head. Okay. I don't know if there was anything else. Basically, it's just saying
good.
that you require the space of now for forgiveness to take place. Okay, paragraph 9. It is still up to you to choose to join with truth or with illusion. But remember that to choose one is to let the other go. Which one you choose, you will endow with the beauty and reality, because the choice depends on which you value more. The spark of beauty or the veil of ugliness, the real world or the world of guilt and fear, truth or illusion, freedom or slavery. It is all the same. For you can never choose except between God and the ego. Thought systems are but true or false, and all their attributes come simply from what they are. Only the thoughts of God are true. Only the thoughts of God are true. And all that follows from them comes from what they are, and is as true as is the holy source from which they came.
Yeah, there's that magic line, right? It is still up to you to choose to join with truth or with illusion. How can you tell? What do you think? How can you tell you're deciding to join with truth? Because everybody thinks they want the truth.
Whenever you feel like you want to protect, there's this idea that my thoughts, my ways of being and everything, they're somehow precious.
I think you're right. Defense. You want to defend something that you got from, you want to defend something about yourself.
The idea that my mind would be joined with, quote, others, it's like there's a misconception or misperception of the idea that my thoughts, my inner thoughts can join with your inner thoughts. Well, that's not true, because your inner thoughts are usually your egoic thoughts.
Right.
I'll be real honest. And so are mine. They're in a past future reference. The only thoughts that are contained that are the same thoughts are the same thoughts that are in the thoughts of God, which you contain as well. And I also contain, and the whole sonship contains. It's the only thoughts that are the same are the thoughts that are contained in the mind of God.
Okay, this is the deal. My mind jumps immediately again to the Gayatri Mantra, which is Tat Savitur Varenyam. Okay, Tat Savitur Varenyam means that, which is another name for God. That Tat Savitur is the effulgence behind the sun, and then Varenyam means worthy of worship. So it means that only the effulgence, so it's not like in our relationship, our thoughts have an effulgence. In other words, those thoughts are sort of like light, but her thoughts are a certain coloration, mine are a certain coloration. But there is an effulgence behind them. And if that effulgence is peace and love, the thoughts are going to be different, radically different.
Yes.
But the peace and the love, they unify at that level.
Yes, they do.
And that's the place where they unify. They don't unify at the level of discrete, different thoughts that you have versus
or even
mine.
go, hey, I had that thought too. You get all excited about,
right. No, yeah.
about
it's
having
not shared,
same thoughts.
Yeah, it's not shared ideas.
Yeah.
In a way, it's shared inspiration, and inspiration as a transcendent level of thought.
Yes, it is. And so, again, we're approaching the end of this section, and inevitably, if you'll actually follow the pattern of the Course, you'll see that there'll come a point where it makes you make a decision, that you're going to have to make a choice. And this is the place. On paragraph 9, it says, but remember that to choose one is to let the other go. Which one you choose you will endow with beauty and reality, because the choice depends on which you value more. The spark of beauty or the veil of ugliness. The real world or the world of guilt and fear. Well,
and the way it functions, though, in terms of us, you said it, which is if I feel myself sort of defending some aspect of what I've got going on, there's a certain sort of defense, I've got some pet things that I want to protect, and then...
even things that you would never want to share with anybody, not in a confession booth, not even on your journals or whatever. No, I just push that one.
Yeah, just leave
bury
that one.
it as far
better just
down as possible.
Ignore that one. And then the other one is, we all know that this is true. Okay, we all know that this is the case. We all know that that's, of course. So if I come into it with that sense of knowing that there are certain things that are for sure, and there are certain things that require a certain defense, I know that I'm not coming to the truth.
Right.
Those things are the very things that have to be exposed.
Yeah, because they keep you separate. All of it keeps you separate. Okay.
Paragraph 10. My holy brother, I would enter into all your relationships and step between you and your fantasies. Let my relationship to you be real to you, and let me bring reality to your perception of your brothers. They were not created to enable you to hurt yourself through them. They were created to create with you. This is the truth that I would interpose between you and your goal of madness. Be not separate from me, and let not the holy purpose of atonement be lost to you in dreams of vengeance. Relationships in which such dreams are cherished have excluded me. Let me enter in the name of God and bring you peace, that you may offer peace to me.
That's, again, it brings it full circle. It reminds us that we're in an alliance, in a holy relationship with God, with Jesus, with the Holy Spirit, if we choose to. And it addresses us as a holy brother. I would enter into all your relationships and step between you and your fantasies. Let my relationship with you be real to you. So again, it's trying to reinforce the reality of Jesus as your partner, as the Holy Spirit as your partner in all things that you have to make decisions in relationships with.
I have to believe that the book is coming from someone. It's not like an abstract idea coming in. There's apparently for whatever our reasons is, however this works, there's a personality presenting this that has interest. And this personality that is presenting this metaphysical model of the universe, of healing and atonement and all this and the sonship, that person fully identifies themselves with the Holy Spirit that's in this. So the Holy Spirit functions as I mentioned in the other, Kenneth Wapnick says it's a metaphor or a symbol.
A symbol. He calls it
a symbol. Mm-hmm. The Holy Spirit is a symbol. Well, so Jesus can be a symbol as well, but at that level, we're all symbols.
Right.
And Jesus, as the author of this, is that agency that's fully identified with this more mystical section of the universe, which is called the Holy Spirit. God's projection to solve our projection.
Yes.
God makes an illusion or a model or a symbol of God. God makes a symbol of God that matches up with the illusion and heals the illusion.
Yeah, they call it a bridge.
The bridge.
The bridge. Don't forget to step onto the bridge. The Holy Spirit will reach over. But you have to make that willingness onto the bridge where the Holy Spirit can actually unify or heal the illusion from the higher levels of God. So God now it comes down and it lays it on it. I do it in reverse and with coming up, but anyway, comes down and it then shows you that there was nothing to be afraid of. There was nothing to hurt you. There's all those things dawn on the mind in little bits and pieces as the miracles come about. When you begin to come in partnership with the Holy Spirit, little things, little holy instances begin to show up more and more in our lives.
Well, and it's necessary.
It helps to reinforce your faith in being in partnership with the Holy Spirit.
We're not around just collecting seashells because they're pretty seashells.
No.
In other words, I'm not just collecting miracles because they're pretty. I'm collecting miracles because it's constructing that bridge back to full understanding of my identity.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, and they even said earlier that you would have more and more of them. So I think that's all.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.